Welcome into the Fantasy Football Playmakers podcast. I am your host, Jeremy, who you can find on Twitter at PopesFFH. Ryan is with me as always, who you can find at Mackie_FFB. Ryan, another week down, 1 week closer. We're almost there.
Dude, it feels like now that the preseason started, it feels like an eternity until regular season started. I just wanted the real important fantasy aspect of this to matter again. So I'm anxiously waiting patiently as best I can to get this season rolling.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny over the weekend. I'm watching games or whatnot, and I'm like, yeah, the fourth quarter doesn't really matter. And then I found myself really intrigued in the fourth quarter, so it was pretty interesting.
What game
I think
was that?
all of them.
All
Usually the first preseason game, the fourth quarter, you're kind of like, At least I always have been. Then this year, I was all over it. I'm like, give me more.
Well, because you're in the space now. You know what I mean? Like these things matter. People come to you and look at your content for things like that. So it matters now a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit maybe. Ryan, you made an announcement. What do you have going on that's a little new? Why don't you share with everybody?
Yeah, so I got asked to come on to be with the FF League winners as a content creator, mainly focusing on the dynasty aspect of their content. So really excited for that. I know Matt Frosty's on there, really big fan of his, and our own High on Sports 28, Keith James, he's on there as well. So pretty good group from what I've seen so far. I'm really excited to get to work for them. And like I told you before the show, I just purely out of respect for Alex, I made sure that I'd let him know first before I announced anything, make sure I got a response back from him. And yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty sweet opportunity. I know a couple people like you'd mentioned there that are over at the league winners, and it's a pretty good group. Some of their articles and stuff they post are pretty good. So definitely excited to see where that takes you. Excited for you.
Even though you call me a traitor, that's fine.
Yeah, you gotta haze you a little bit. It's all right. You gotta write for more than one space in here, and that's my opinion. I write for multiple.
I was gonna say you write for sports gambling, so I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it's a thing, It's just a thing. But first, Ryan, hit him with the promo, and then let's dive in.
Yeah, so as you guys are aware, today's episode, as always, is brought to you by King Fantasy Sports. Go check out the King Sports Draft Kit and get the advantage over the rest of your league this season. Be sure you're doing the right preparation to start your season off right. Get everything from rankings, breakouts, and values to busts and sleepers. Does your league have some funky settings? Learn how to make your own projections as well. Stop sitting on the sidelines and buy this draft kit today. The guide is only $8.99. If you use our promo code PLAYMAKERS, you'll save an additional 10% off. Get everything you'll need to not just compete, but dominate your leagues this season.
I will say, I like the yards per one, but I also like that one. I think it's pretty good. They updated a lot more. It's definitely a good draft guide. Definitely worth it. I'd definitely check it out. Save yourself a couple bucks. Use the code. I'm just gonna
throw this.
Hit it.
There is nothing wrong, at least in my opinion, of getting more than one source for your fantasy material. Like me personally, I listen to, oh my gosh, a couple dozen podcasts. I mean, you don't necessarily have to agree with everything that they're saying just to kind of get the thoughts in your head or see articles from different people, see rankings from different people, and see where you vary at and see maybe you say, oh, this guy's a little higher than where I have him. Why is that? Maybe they see something that you don't and you pop. Because I know that's what happened to me during a lot of the pre-draft process when we were going through that stuff. Like we talked with Dynasty Jake and guys like that where they're like, hey, maybe you should take a look at this guy or this guy. And maybe they weren't on your radar, but you're like, oh, yeah, maybe that's a guy that we should keep an eye on, or maybe that's a guy I'm a little too low on. So there's nothing wrong with checking out multiple sources of preseason sources or preseason rankings or even in-season stuff. Like there's nothing wrong with diverting from just fantasy footballers or ESPN or CBS, wherever you might get your material from.
No, I love that. I totally agree. I use that a lot in my processes, especially like rookie stuff. Not everybody has time to watch that, watch college football in general. It's tough to commit Saturdays and Sundays to watching football all day. Some people can, and it's definitely a good process to use other people's stuff. And like you said, if you get a big discrepancy, you can kind of figure out, okay, why is this guy 25 slots higher on their rankings versus mine? I can totally get behind that. So I agree. Love it. Good idea. Good plug. But moving on to the breaking news here, guys. Week 1's done. Week 2, Ryan, I'm going to hit you with the same question. What are you looking forward to in week 2? Maybe a player that you kind of want to see. Okay, he kind of disappointed last week, but I want to see him. Or maybe a guy that impressed and see if he's going to repeat, maybe with a little bit more of the starters probably playing this week.
So I want to see if Justin Fields can repeat what he did in week 1. He looked super impressive. I'm curious to see if he's able to carry that momentum over, if maybe we start seeing some more rookie mistakes. But he's definitely a guy that I'm looking forward to because he just looked he just looked really composed and just in control of the offense when he was on the field. He did have a couple of mistakes. He had a couple of balls that he overthrew and one that probably should have been picked, and he had a ball get stripped from him on a scramble, but he was able to recover it. So just seeing if he can clean those things up and make a push for the QB1 week 1 for Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I think he made definitely a pretty good case in that game. I mean, Dalton looked pretty bad with the first team. But I agree. I hope we get to see him with the first team. Do you know what I mean? Like against the first team defense. If hypothetically, say this week that you get 2 or 3 quarters out of the first teamers, it'd be nice to see him get a shot, maybe Dalton get a shot, and kind of see where they're both at. But I think Fields made a strong case even in just that first preseason game that it's clear that he's better than Andy Dalton. So that's definitely one I'm watching pretty close. I don't have any Justin Fields shares anymore. I did trade the one I had. But I still interested to see. I think he was the second best fantasy quarterback in the draft. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see that. All right, next one.
Wait. You're not going to give us who you're looking forward to?
No, I don't really want to. I don't want to. There isn't anybody. Javonte Williams again. I want to see if he keeps it up. That's all I'm watching. That's it. That's all you need to know. I actually do kind of want to see. I don't know if the Ravens game's on TV. I kind of want to see that. I've heard some pretty interesting stuff out of like the beat writers and stuff over there. At least that Dobbins looked like he kind of struggled in that game. I do believe they didn't have linemen in, but I'm kind of curious to see what goes on there. Kind of want to see if he bounces back or whatnot. So other than that, I'm actually going to a week too late. I'm going to Canton this Saturday. My father-in-law or future father-in-law is taking me. So
there you go.
A little bit of a week too late to miss the whole festipades of the expo, but we planned it a little bit before that and just didn't work out last week. So, but I'm pretty excited about that. So it's on Saturday, so it's going to be a little tough because that's when most of the games are on, but who knows? Maybe we'll go. I think we're going pretty early, so maybe we'll be able to get. I don't know how long it takes to get through. I've never been there, so maybe we'll get through before 1:00. We can find a bar, sit down, watch the 4:00 or 1:00 game for a little bit, come home. Could be pretty cool. But other than that, the more important stuff, other than my personal life, Deshaun Watson. Now we're talking about a personal life. Not looking good. There's a report that just came out that the FBI is called. I'm definitely out on Watson at the moment. I'm going to ask you, Ryan, after I just think I'm out. I think the FBI is now in. You've got so many cases against him. You can tell, he was getting frustrated at the camera folks last week with them recording him. And it's just kind of like something's getting to him. There's got to be something that they have on him that it's not going to be good, I don't think. I'm surprised he still has not been suspended by the league or put on the commissioner exempt list or something along those lines. Ryan, how about you? You're still in on Watson? I saw you drafted him in your one league.
No, I did not draft him. Don't even bring it up because I'm feel a little upset about it, but it's fine. I agree. If the FBI is involved with anything involving a player, it's obviously not good. Like you had said, I'm honestly surprised that he's not suspended or on the exempt list or whatever the case may be, because usually at this point, if it's gotten this far, Goodell's usually been pretty strict when it comes to limiting team activities after these type of things. So I'm kind of curious as to why exactly that hasn't happened yet. Maybe they just don't feel like they have enough on him. But I feel like if the FBI is involved and talking to his agent and his attorney and things like that, there's a reason why those guys get involved. And it's never good if you have the FBI looking at you and talking to your attorneys and things like that. So, yeah, I agree. I think we've said it before on a previous pod that we weren't likely to see him. Definitely not at the beginning of the year, if at all, this year. And I think with this newest report, it's leaning towards probably not seeing him at all this year.
So you think it's Tyrod Taylor? Real quick. Or do you think Davis Mills pushes him?
I don't have a basis to stand on with that, so I'm going to say Tyrod purely based off experience.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Tyrod to start for now. I think I've heard he looked pretty good in camp, but
they're not going anywhere. Like, I feel like they got to know that. They're not a team.
I think if they look bad, like, I think they'll try. I mean, every team's going to try. You never know. So I think they give Tyrod another case of the normal Tyrod scenarios, unfortunately for him, but he's going to get a couple weeks. They might go 0-4, and they'll be like, all right, let's see what we got in Davis Mills, see if there's anything there, or if they need to go after a quarterback in the draft this season. So if you're in Superflex, I'd definitely try. And I mean, most people probably already snatched him up with this whole scenario, but if for some odd reason someone hasn't, maybe try and get Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills. Maybe even try now. See if you can get either one of them cheaper, or wait until Tyrod's announced the starter. You know what I mean? Mills will probably drop. You might be able to grab him, and he could be a guy that could help you out later in the season. So,
yeah, because fantasy players don't necessarily always think of that stuff, especially when news drops like immediately. Like, people just run out to whoever the starter was. Likely they might even drop Davis Mills for Tyrod Taylor if maybe they thought Davis Mills would be the starter, and then you can just snatch him up and stash him if you got the spot for him.
Or if you're in a league with me, you can go snatch up Kerryon Johnson because he got cut and I'm just done. So I cut him. I'm just done. Yeah. I'm done. I'm over the Kerryon experience. So yeah, I'll take the loss if he becomes something. Injury corner, Ryan. Another day, another boatload of injuries to an extent. A little better. There's definitely some that happened during games this weekend I wanted to touch on. So let's go kind of quick. Chase Claypool, the biggest one today, looked scary at first. Come to find out, it seems to be just a minor knee injury. Obviously, probably something we need to monitor. How do you feel about Claypool? You think it's going to be a lingering knee issue, or you think he's kind of just a stinger and he should be all right? Obviously, it's hard to tell. Neither of us are doctors, but
yeah, it's probably more of just maybe like a knee sprain, or because I didn't see a video of how he fell. I didn't see any sort of indication of what happened. I don't know if he twisted his knee or if he landed on it. Maybe it's just a knee contusion, but he wasn't able to put any sort of weight on his leg at the time when they were filming him. So that's not necessarily a good sign, but everything that's came out after that, it said it's not serious. So it's obviously worth monitoring because he's a guy that fantasy owners are expecting big things from this year, but he's a young guy. He's a big, strong guy. So I don't expect it to be too much of an issue, especially if it's not any ligament sort of issue or anything like that.
If you're on the clock and redraft quick and there's other guys right there, are you taking Claypool, or would you kind of pass on him because of this possibility that it could linger? Because I believe it's a knee/ankle sprain. So it's kind of like a iffy thing. You know what I mean? Almost like a Michael Thomas situation. Just real quick.
I don't have very many shares.
Off the cuff.
I just pass.
All right. Fair. Sammy Watkins injured yet again about that time of the year. Is it time to move on? I think he was in line for a decent amount of targets. You know what I mean? There wasn't much. Bateman's hurt. Hollywood Brown's hurt. Now Watkins is hurt. What do they got left? Tylan Wallace? Looks like it's going to be a big year for him. But I think it's time to move on. I'm ready to. I didn't have any Watkins shares already, but I know some people were kind of grabbing onto him because they were thinking early this season, but obviously he's injured now. They say that it's believed to not be serious, but we've seen Sammy. We know. We were Bills fans.
Everything's a little bit more serious when it comes to Sammy Watkins for whatever reason. But to answer your question, yeah, I think it's time to just completely move on, unfortunately. because talent's never really been the issue for him. It's just he just cannot stay healthy. I think.
Yeah, and it's usually he's good in the beginning of the season, and then he's hurt. So like now you're losing him already, possibly for the first couple of weeks. I'm probably out on him.
Yeah, I was just about to touch on that. I mean, with Bateman going down, it seems like we could always count on a week 1 Watkins appearance, and now that just kind of takes the sails out of that. And the top 3 receivers for the Ravens are officially hurt or on the injury report between Watkins, Hollywood, and he's supposed to be returning to practice here shortly, but him, Hollywood, and Bateman are all out, obviously. And Tylan Wallace apparently hasn't looked good in practice and went without a catch in the preseason game. Andy muffed a punt, which has apparently been a pretty regular occurrence for him in practice. So maybe it's wheels up for Devin Duvernay here.
Ooh, sneaky.
He saw 6 targets last week.
Yeah, he could be a guy. I liked him last year.
I mean, somebody's got to catch balls besides Mark Andrews, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, they still got Miles Boykin. Could be him. Just saying.
Maybe.
Somebody. Maybe. Heck, it could be me. Maybe I'll go try out.
They might stop you at this point.
Tarik Cohen, still sidelined, still on the pup. So, just a real quick question. Montgomery got nicked up a little bit there in the preseason week 1. I don't think it's anything serious, but he got pulled after it. Who do we like real quick, Khalil Herbert or Damian Williams?
I like Damian to start the year in redraft. I like Herbert late in Dynasty.
All righty. I could agree. I like Herbert a little bit because I think if Monty still plays, I feel like Herbert could have Cohen's role. But Williams looked pretty good, though, in that first game. So he looked pretty explosive. So for Damian Williams.
He's a well-balanced back. Like, he's been able to do everything asked of him from each team he's gone to. So, I mean, it's not like he's a bum. He's just I just like Khalil Herbert's probably a more explosive back for them.
I like it. Big one. One that hurts home for you. I know this, and you'll hear it when it happens. Mike Williams, hip, not going to practice all week. And Justin Jackson, groin, preseason week 1. No timetable. Yeah. I know it hurts. I'm sorry. I had to tell you. But what do we make of it? Mike Williams, is it precautionary probably, or is it going to be an issue? We know we've struggled with some injuries in the past. Justin Jackson, could this be the end for him?
So I'll touch on Mike Williams first, but he's another guy who apparently just cannot stay on the field. He's a big body receiver that needs that explosiveness and that catchability 50-50 ball to be effective. And when he's healthy, he's able to produce for you in your fantasy team. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. But I think this opens the door for Josh Palmer to get some valuable time and showcase some of his skills that have caught some buzz this summer. As for Jackson, like you said, this one kind of hurts personally just because he was one of the guys I talked about last week as a late round sleeper that can make a difference for your team this year. But the groin injury and uncertain to return timetable there is a little concerning. Groin injuries are usually one of those things that can linger and reoccur throughout the year, especially if they try to rush him back. So I'm disappointed to hear it because it seems like he may be another guy that's marked with an injury-prone tag.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see both of these, but I like what we get from it. I think Josh Palmer looks pretty good. It's nice to see him get some experience. I don't think he's going to overtake Mike Williams. I think Mike Williams still, once he's healthy, will return to the wide receiver 2 position on this team. But Josh Palmer's getting valuable reps for next year when they don't sign Mike Williams. Justin Jackson, I know you talked about him. I'm not a huge Justin Jackson fan personally. So for me, I like the fact that we get to see Kelly a little bit more. Maybe he can make a bounce back. But Larry Roundtree looked pretty good in that game. So pretty excited there.
Give me 1 second. I think there is a bear out on my porch right now.
Oh.
I'm not kidding. Give me 1 second.
We have a bear incident. False alarm?
No, it was.
Oh.
I had a bag of garbage I needed to take out to my shed after the show, and there was a bear trying to get it.
Well, Ryan, where do you live? Because I'm not moving there.
You don't want to come visit?
No. Oh, I got attacked by a dog last week. That was pretty cool.
See, what's the difference?
Exactly. The dog was a lot smaller than a bear.
Yeah, but the bear's eating my garbage, not me.
Yeah. It was only my arm. I'm all right. All right. John, back to injuries, aside from me. Jonnu Smith, ankle injury. Are we worried about this? I feel like ankles sometimes can linger, especially for a guy who does a lot of his damage after the catch. Any worry here? You think Jonnu Smith? I mean, he's probably going to get held out, I would think, for a little bit. They know what he can do, so I don't think that they're going to need to see him as much in the preseason the rest of the year. So what do you think?
Yeah, so apparently he's got a low ankle sprain, no timetable on return right now. But I think it's more of just a precautionary thing. He did sign a 4-year, $50 million deal just this summer, so they're probably just going to play it safe and make sure that their top free agent signing is healthy and ready to go for when it actually matters.
So you think he might be back week 1? You think there's a question mark there, if you had to guess?
If I had to guess, it's probably a question mark just because you never really know how sprains are going to react to your body. It's kind of just person dependent. I know I've had playing basketball growing up. I know I've had low ankle sprains before, and I've had some that recover in a couple of days. I've had some that lasted a couple of weeks to recover. It just kind of depends on how bad the sprain is and what exactly you're trying to do on the sprain. And him being tight end, obviously, it makes it a little bit more difficult to gauge. So,
yeah, I'm hoping for week 1. I think that's a possibility. I think they're going to be extra precautious. You know what I mean? Like if he takes that injury, they're just not going to, he might hardly practice, but I think he might be ready. But like you said, it's dependent on the person. Another one that kind of hits home for a lot of people probably on Twitter, Elijah Moore, quad, won't practice this week, maybe next week. Are we concerned here? I mean, quad injuries aren't great for wide receivers. Do we think this could be a lingering issue possibly, or, I mean, obviously we're hoping it's not, but.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on this because I haven't really seen much updates on this as far as what exactly happened.
Yeah, there's not much out there.
I did see that Robert Salah came out and said that they've already declared him out for this weekend against the Packers, but they're hoping to have him back the following week against Philly. So the timing isn't great since now's the time where we're able to see what kind of rapport him and Wilson are going to have. And he's been one of the standout rookies of the summer so far. I mean, he's been all over Twitter and making great plays, and he's just been all over, and his stock has kind of skyrocketed over the summer so far. So I'm hoping that he can come back and be ready to go come next week, just so we can see what he looks like with the starters there for more than a quarter or two. So I don't really know what to expect in terms of the injury recovery time, but they're saying they're hoping to have him back for next week against Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely kicking the water. If I own Elijah Moore, I'm definitely kicking the waters on Crowder now. You might be able to still get him pretty cheap. I think Crowder's going to have a big role. We'll touch on that a little later, a little sneak peek onto what's to come. But Darrington Evans came up hobbled. This one hurts both of us. I know both of us like Darrington Evans. Non-contact, on a stretch play. Very similar to, I believe, how he got hurt last year. Where are we at with Darrington Evans? He's only considered day-to-day at the moment, but he obviously had the hamstring issues last year. Is this something that obviously seems like it might linger? Are we worried on Darrington Evans here with this to put him on that injury tag, or where are we at?
So this is where I'm a little bit more concerned of the guys that we were talking about so far. Because like you said, he was a guy that I had talked about being a sleeper this year for just due to the wear and tear on Henry right now. Like it was just a precautionary ad in case Henry's miles have added up and just he end up getting hurt. And I feel like he's a good replacement for him. But this is the same. It's on his right side. It's the same. He tore his patella in 2017 in his right knee, and then missed time last year. All the games he missed last year were due to his right hamstring. and then now he has a knee strain, from what I read, in the same knee. So that he tore his patella. So it's a little concerning. It's the same leg. It's the same area of the leg. And it is one of those things where maybe he is just going to have his career cut short just because maybe his right leg just, for whatever reason, can't handle the wear and tear that comes with being an NFL running back. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's unfortunate to see him get hurt again, but hopefully he's able to make a recovery and he can just kind of move past it and get healthy for the rest of the year. But like I said, it's just kind of weird and coincidental to me that it's always on the same right side of his body.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm monitoring. I still like him. He's still cheap enough. It's not like you're overpaying for Darrington Evans. His price is obviously going to go down possibly with this injury and like startup drafts. But I'm definitely concerned. I can't lie. I would be lying if I told you I'm not.
Yep.
Like you said, Ryan. I mean, it's concerning that it's all on the same side. It seems like it might be something that lingers his whole career, and you might be dealing with that weeks on and off where he's not going to be able to play. So it's a little concerning. I don't think he's ever going to be a full-time back. I think he's going to kind of be like a versatile little, like a scat back style type player, at least in some type of combo. So it might be something that he can deal with. I don't think he's ever going to have to deal with a full workload. So I'm hoping for a speedy recovery. I want to see him this year. I hope he does well. I really root for Darrington Evans. I like him a lot. I liked him a lot last year. So that kind of sums up the injuries, unless you have one that I didn't mention. Yes.
No, I haven't seen any yet.
Good. All right. Let's move on to the
I did peek before we got on, just on a couple Twitter pages that I follow to see if there was anything recent.
I think I got most of the important-ish ones. Sorry for anybody who didn't get mentioned. You're not unimportant. I still think you're important. But back to our main meat and potatoes. Week 1 risers and fallers. Ryan, you went with the young guys. I sort of went with young guys. Let's start with our risers, Ryan, because we always want to talk about the good stuff first, right?
Of course.
No one wants to talk about the bad stuff. Nah. Risers. Ryan, you elected a guy that I still just can't get behind. So I want to hear your story, but you picked Ramondre Stevenson, who had 10 carries, 127 yards on one carry was 91. Disclosure, 2 touchdowns. Ryan, why are you rising on Ramondre Stevenson?
So this is a guy who averaged 6.5 yards per carry last season in Oklahoma when he was able to play. I know I think he was suspended for a game, and he might have some injuries thrown in there too. But and I'm sure by now everybody's seen or at least heard of, if you haven't, you just did, about the 91-yard run that he had. But honestly, I think he looked like one of the best backs on the field for New England on Thursday. He only averaged 4 yards per carry if you take away that huge run that he had. And it was all in the fourth quarter in week 1 of the preseason. So
he was playing me.
Some, if not most of those guys might not even make the roster for Washington. But it was still encouraging to see him run physical and fight for every yard. Like, you could tell that it really mattered to him that he was in the game, getting his opportunity to show what he can do. And he made do on what he was given and capable of doing, I guess you could say. And I thought he showed really good footwork, proved that he isn't really afraid to be physical between the tackles, which he never really has been. Showed good patience. In my opinion, he's the best goal line back that they have. And I think they need a guy like that in order to score as much as they're going to have to in order to keep up with their schedule. I know their schedule is pretty tough this year, so is Buffalo. So I know they're going to have to score in order to keep pace with some of these teams. But he's just a name to keep an eye on, especially if the Patriots release Sony Michel, which is a rumor that's been circling all offseason. I've heard rumors back and forth that he might get released, and then there's one that they like him, and now he's getting released again. So he still have a ton of miles left on his legs, and to be a contributor, if he can play like he did Thursday and keep that momentum going for the rest of the preseason.
All right. I mean, I can get behind it. I definitely think where he also gets a little bit of a bump would be if Mac Jones wins the job.
Yeah.
Because I feel like your argument kind of stands on that he's going to be like a goal line back, and that's where he's going to get most of his points probably. It's not like your full argument, but you know what I mean? Like that's where the beef of that is like he's kind of a goal line guy. And you want those guys because the touchdowns are worth more than yards in essence. So I think if Mac wins it, you're definitely going to see a need for a bigger sized goal line back. However, if Cam's the quarterback, I feel like that argument kind of loses some luster because I feel like Cam's going to be that guy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you think they stick with that though, with his injury history that he's got going now? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean they had no problem last year. You know, like last year they were fine with it. He only got COVID. That's why he went down. You know what I mean? So
didn't he just have shoulder surgery or something like his?
That was like 2 years ago. Unless he had one over the summer that I don't remember. I don't think he had anything.
Maybe
I think it was the year before he got signed.
So his shoulder's been the same since. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, he still like shot puts the football. It looks like it's not good. Better than me. I'm not saying he's bad. But I don't know. I just feel like Ramondre Stevenson's a little buried. I'm still. I mean, I guess you could argue that his stock definitely rose a little. He looked good. He definitely looked pretty fast on that 91-yard run. So I could get behind it. I just still feel like he's pretty buried. You know what I mean? You got Damian Harris as the clear guy. James White's going to get used. Sony Michel if he doesn't get cut. JJ Taylor. I mean, there's a lot of guys there. So
JJ Taylor looked explosive to me. When I was watching,
JJ Taylor looked nice.
He looked good. I'm not gonna lie. He did look good.
I mean, he could be pushing James White out. You don't know. You know what I mean? He's going to kind of have that role if he gets it. You know, Deion Lewis, real little guy. He looks pretty good, though. I liked him last year. I had him on a lot of teams. I stashed him. And he didn't come much at last year. And then I had to cut him this year for rookies. So I'm kind of like bitter if he hits. But like I'd also enjoy it for him because I had to cut him.
Right.
So I'll have to pay for him to get him back, which will stink. But
did New England have a year where James White and Deion Lewis were both viable in fantasy?
I don't know. My memory's shot.
I feel like
that's
they probably,
too far for me to ask.
They did. I'm just curious.
I would say it'd be the year that Deion Lewis left for Tennessee. I think he had a good year that year before he left, if I remember correctly. And James White would have been there.
I'm gonna
You look it up while I talk about Zachy.
Yeah,
all right.
Go ahead.
My riser is a rookie quarterback by the name of Zach Wilson. And this is where I'm coming from. I think Zach Wilson is arguably one of the biggest boomer bust type guys. And I'm not saying he's a boom off of week one of the preseason. However, I think he looked very good in week one of the preseason. You could see a rookie coming in and definitely struggling. He looked good. He was 6 for 9, 63 yards. He had good ball placement. He had good timing. He seemed like he was in command of the offense. It looked like he'd been running that offense for a long time. And I think overall the offense looked pretty good. I mean, I know it was the Giants defense and they're not the best, but I think they moved the ball pretty well. And he made a couple big third downs. I mean, the biggest one was on, I think, the first drive. It was a 3rd and 6. He made an out throw, perfectly placed, well-timed to Corey Davis for the first down. And then he made another one, I think, in the second or third drive. He made it was like 3rd and 9. I mean, he got a 16-yard completion in a tight window over the middle. So I just think that he came out, he looked really good, and he looked in command, and like the moment wasn't too big for him, which is, I think, something that we kind of thought might happen with him coming from BYU to the big city in New York City and the sports market there. So I liked it. I think he just looked well. He looked composed. I'm not going to say it was the best of the rookie quarterbacks, but I think he did his best for his stock as far as fantasy goes. It made me feel a little bit better about the shares I owned of Zach Wilson, just because I feel like, okay, he looks like he's capable. He doesn't look like he's coming out here and it's going to be a struggle. I'm definitely excited to see what he does next week. I want to see if it either improves, stays the same, if he gets more time, maybe a better defense. We'll have to see. So, but my little bonus is definitely go buy Corey Davis and Crowder because of the Elijah Moore injury, and Corey Davis just seems like he's going to get peppered. So if you're in a PPR league, go get Corey Davis, because if he stays healthy, I mean, he could be a wide receiver too, just purely on receptions. Could be like an Allen Robinson situation where the team's terrible, but he's the only guy they're throwing to. So that's all I got. Go buy Zach Wilson.
So I do like the Corey Davis thing because Zach Wilson looked at him and threw at him the first 4 plays of that game. I mean, he was delivering to him every chance that he could get. But the one thing I have to note is that the Giants defense actually is legit, but he was just playing against majority second string guys. They didn't really have much of their starters out there. Wilson was quiet, but for the most part, he was quiet. He didn't really have any huge plays, or I don't even think he had a touchdown, to be honest with you. But I agree that he was effective, and he did look the part. He didn't take a sack despite getting some pressure from the Giants defense, so that was encouraging to see.
Yeah, I think he stepped up nice. You know what I mean? He stepped up in the pocket when the rush came around. He had decent awareness. I think it's just going to be that offense. I mean, that offense was pretty impressive. I know it's the Giants and it was a second team, but like I liked what it looked like. You know, like the throws were quick. They were underneath. They weren't hard throws for him. And then they ran the ball. It looked like a very good offense, at least. It was dumbed down like to a level that's like preseason level, but I just think it looked pretty efficient it looked good for a Jets offense. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I feel like Jets fans got to be encouraged. I mean, he didn't really make any mistakes. He didn't make any of those like just errant throws that we've seen Mark Sanchez and quarterbacks that have come before, even Sam Darnold make in the past. I feel like he looked poised, had good pocket presence, like you said, and that the one throw that really stood out to me was that. I don't know if you watched the game or not, but they're at 3rd and 9.
Yeah,
that
was a nice throw.
Rushed 4 and hit Keelan Cole on a timing route and got 15 yards, first down, stepped up in the pocket and was just able to stand there and just be willing to make that throw, knowing that it's 3rd and 9, knowing he has to get the first down marker. It was a great route by Keelan Cole, knowing he has to get past the markers to get hit. So he didn't do anything that Twitter could kill him for. But he didn't really do anything to get Jets fans saying he's the next Joe Namath or anything like that. But I honestly think that's kind of what the Jets fans needed. I feel like they just needed somebody to just calm everything down and not get overhyped about something and not feel like they wasted their number 2 pick. So, and Wilson's one of those kids that seems to be willing to work harder and get better and just seems to want to be good in the league. So, as a Bills fan, I want to see him suck because I'm a Bills fan. I don't want the Jets to be good. But
come on, we got Josh Allen. There's no worries.
From a personal standpoint, I would like to see him succeed.
I'm just going to say this. Think about what the AFC East could be in 3 years. You could have Tua. You could have Mac Jones, Josh Allen, Zach Wilson, and 4 pretty good defenses. I mean, it could be a tough division. I mean, it could be like an older AFC North. I would say it's more of like going to be an AFC North, but
where they're just battling defensively.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Really, you think about it.
I feel like the Bills are too. Oh, I guess the Pittsburgh Steelers from.
They would be kind of the Steelers, you know, like their defense is good. Not great. I think they're going to have a great pass rush. I mean, Gregory Rousseau looked pretty freaking.
He looks like a freak.
He looked pretty good for his limited time. And then you're going to have, we know what New England is. That defense is going to be good. They looked good again, getting some guys back. Then the Jets with Robert Salah. Who knows if he can bring those up to what the 49ers were at some point. It's going to take some time getting some guys in there. But then the Dolphins, their defense is no slouch. So I definitely think it's a division on the rise. It's also the division of running backs by committee. So if you're playing fantasy, don't take a running back from here because unless you're taking the whole backfield, because who the hell knows. But now let's talk about the bad stuff, Ryan. It has to come. You have the super spicy one that maybe you'll become famous on Twitter for. So Trey Sermon is your faller. He rushed 9 times, 26 yards, which isn't great. 2 receptions, 14 yards, better. Ryan, why are you falling on Trey Sermon?
So due to his landing spot right after the draft, Sermon has been being viewed as one of those potential league-winning-esque mid-round picks and drafts, a guy that you can take later in the draft, but also could potentially win you a league if Mostert inevitably, it seems like, goes down at some point in the season. Week 1 of the preseason did not bode well for those, including myself, who had that stance. Now, I say everything that I'm going to say with a grain of salt because it is week 1 of preseason.
Overreact for us, Ryan. Give me the overreaction because mine's coming next.
No teams open up their playbook much. Nobody played all of their opening day starters. And for rookies, it's their first real NFL action. So I'm not saying you should stop drafting him by any means or anything like that. Like, I'm not getting carried away. But because the offense is still very fantasy friendly for running backs, and Sermon is talented enough on top of it to make a very impactful year in fantasy. But averaging 2.9 yards per carry in your first outing is not what you want to see if you own Sermon, especially if you consider that JaMychal Hasty had 37 more yards on 1 more carry. He averaged 6.3 yards per carry. And Sermon's current ADP for redraft is somewhere in the 8th to 10th round, depending on your league size. And I'm honestly okay with drafting a guy like Sermon there because of that, what that offense can do. But I think it's something worth monitoring throughout the preseason to see if he can get acclimated and show us something before the regular season starts here in a few weeks. He's not a huge faller for me, but he's a faller just because of what his running backs were able to do and what people were expecting to see of him in this offense.
I'm not going to say anything that's too mean, but I wasn't the biggest Trey Sermon guy to begin with. I think the landing spot definitely helped him, but I still wasn't sold. I think Trey Sermon lacks a lot of stuff that he needs at the NFL level. He also has stuff that he does well that will help him at the NFL level. One thing is that this 3 yards per carry doesn't surprise me too much. I feel like he kind of lacks a little bit of an explosiveness. He's definitely strong. He can move piles and push piles. I just feel like it was a weird fit to me. I know they liked him. Obviously, they drafted him. But it just didn't seem right to me. He didn't seem like a 49ers running back to me. I don't know how exactly they're going to use him. I just feel like I need to see more. I'm not ready to fall on him. I think he still could be decent. And it's tough because you even saw him with Garoppolo and Trey Lance, and it made no difference. You would think Trey Lance would maybe open up a defense a little bit more because they got to account for his rushing ability. So I could see where you're a little disappointed, but
that's where the whole opening up the playbook really comes into play, though, because I feel like with Trey Lance, it does open up a little bit more holes. People will have to respect his legs a little bit more. So I want to see what happens in the coming weeks of preseason here, where they do start to open up the playbook a little bit more, and they do start to run with starters a little bit more. So, like I said,
yeah, I agree.
Faller for me, but he's a faller just because of what people were talking him up to be and what they're hoping for him to be in this offense. And it's just not a good first impression. And first impressions are kind of everything in fantasy at this point, it seems like.
Fair enough. My faller is actually a player who didn't play. However, another player's performance has created his fall. If you can guess who it is in 5 seconds, even though no one can answer me because I'm on my own podcast.
Melvin Gordon.
Well, you know because you have the sheet. You're cheating. Anyways, it's Melvin Gordon, who's still nursing an injury, still hasn't practiced, still isn't playing, and not working with an offense that looked pretty good. So I don't know if I would mess with it. Drew Locke looked like he knew how to play football. I know it was second and third team Minnesota Vikings, which isn't great, but he looked pretty good. However, a guy looked even better. A guy that I love, near and dear to my heart. Javonte Williams, who had the best first run of a rookie running back. I will say that. But he looked very, very good. 5 rushes, 29 yards, would have had a touchdown if Jerry Jeudy could block. But he can't. So
he was just holding.
Yeah, whatever. And it's still not blocking. It's a penalty. Can't do that. So we don't know. He might not have got in, but I mean, the man led the nation in broken tackles last year. He would have got in. Either way, first run, made a nice cutback, showed explosiveness. The vision was there. The footwork was there. The burst. Everything we saw at UNC was there. And it didn't matter. I mean, I know you're playing against second teamers, but he still looked just as explosive against an NFL defense as he did a CFB defense. So for me, I think he's definitely on track to take this lead job sooner than later. I would not be surprised if Javonte comes in week 1 and sees more touches than Melvin Gordon. So I'm all in on Javonte Williams, and I think Melvin Gordon at this point is definitely on a fallers list. I think he will still see usage, but I mean, it's going to be tough. If Javonte looks as good as he did this week, next week with maybe a little bit more run time, maybe they run him a little bit more in week 2. I don't know how you could start Melvin Gordon over him. He definitely looked just as good, if not better than Melvin Gordon was last year. So that's all I got. I mean, I just wanted to sit on my soapbox a little bit and talk about a guy that I love. So
no, I agree. But I can't really call Melvin Gordon a faller personally because I thought Williams was a better player when they drafted him. Me and you actually had him as our RB1 ahead of Najee and company post draft, as far as I remember.
You copied my rankings.
Oh, get over yourself.
Anyways, continue your story.
And obviously nothing's changed in that aspect. Obviously, Javonte looked good. Melvin's hurt, so Javonte is likely going to continue handling RB1 touches until he gets back. But Melvin is still talented enough, I think, to be a weekly flex while he's the lead back. But it's hard not to love Williams and see that he's going to be the starter before year's end, probably even sooner than their bye week, if not after their bye week. Like we see a lot of rookies come on. So if you can go get Javonte at his ADP or somehow buy low on him, maybe somebody's not paying attention or something like that, I would do what I needed to do in order to acquire my shares of Javonte Williams.
I just don't see a path for Melvin Gordon at the current moment, aside from he already knows the playbook from last year. I just feel like the way that Javonte looked, if he continues to look like that the next 3 weeks, do you know what I mean? I mean, Gordon could be back sooner than later, but if Gordon doesn't return until the 3rd game of the preseason, I mean, you have to think Javonte's going to at least see half the touches. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know if Gordon's going to get that run anymore. I feel like Javonte's a guy who can come in, and I think he just purely shows you that I'm just as good, if not better, than Melvin Gordon. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it is kind of a fall for him. That's just my argument, is that I just don't think I had Javonte Williams 1 as a dynasty asset. I thought he was going to be the better outlook of a career, longer, just better in general. But I didn't expect him to play this year. I expected a very J.K. Dobbins-like rookie season where he sits till 6, 7, and that's where you see him come on those later weeks. But seeing the Gordon stuff, and that's where Gordon falls for me, because I thought Gordon was going to be a starter from week 1 to 6. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? And Javonte would get sprinkled in. Now I'm thinking, I mean, you could be seeing Javonte Williams week 1. I mean, that's bold, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, he might get the most touches week 1. And it's a stretch, I think, because if Gordon comes back anytime in between there, he already knows the playbook. It's not like he's got to learn it. So as long as he's healthy, I could see them giving him more touches, purely being the veteran. But, I don't know.
Do you think the Broncos are willing to pay him the $7 million whatever they're paying him this year to let him play second fiddle the whole year, though? Do you think they're willing to just give him the chance to be?
I know the argument, and I could understand what you're saying, but what's $7 million? You're going to play the guy for $7 million and win 4 games, or if you're paying Javonte and he's playing and you win 10 games, is it worth playing the guy that you're paying?
I get your point. I'm just saying, like,
I get it.
They're going to at least give him a chance to prove that he's still Melvin Gordon, which I don't think he is. Like I said, I've thought Javonte was the better player since they drafted him. Like Dan Park, who we've had on the show before, who's part of Yards Per, we've had this discussion where we've talked about how as soon as he got drafted to Denver, we were like, he's going to be the starter at some point in the season. We just weren't really sure what. And this preseason week 1 show that he put on just kind of pushed it closer and closer than what we initially had thought, and I personally initially had thought.
I agree. But that's my argument, is why Melvin Gordon's a faller, just because I feel like we're losing weeks of him being fantasy relevant.
And that's fair enough.
So,
yeah, I hear you.
And I just don't like talking about negative things. So I figured if I talk about a good thing that made something else negative, it was just better.
So you're basically saying Melvin Gordon sucks now and Javonte Williams is the only back there.
I mean, I wouldn't argue it. If I was them, I'd be calling the Rams and be like, you guys want Melvin Gordon?
They got Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, but Melvin Gordon.
Call the Falcons.
Yo, Falcons. Mike Davis, Melvin Gordon. Come on. What do you want? I bet you they could sell him. Yeah, I bet you they could get him. That's actually intriguing. Could you imagine? I'd be in on Melvin Gordon in Atlanta.
I was going to say, I bet you people's opinions would change relatively quickly if he did go to a spot like Atlanta.
Interesting. Food for thought. Food for next week. Brian,
possibly.
Why don't you let everybody know where they can find you and what you have going on?
You can find me on Twitter at Mackey_FFB. You can find some articles of mine over at Yards Per. We'll be seeing some content from me over at FF League Winners. Go check all that out. I'm just really happy to see everybody had fun at the FF Expo. Nobody didn't really see any negativity happening whatsoever over there. It seemed like it was a really good time. Can't wait to be there next year. I'm already saving up money to go because I definitely want to. I actually didn't even know this was a thing until this year that this was taking place.
I think it was year one.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I could have sworn I had saw people say that it was a thing before, but maybe not. Anyways,
maybe I'm wrong. I've definitely been wrong before. I can tell you that.
I mean, I've been wrong on back-to-back shows calling out Darrington Evans and Justin Jackson. So we're all wrong.
Ryan, that's bad for the show. Don't bring that back up.
Apparently,
that's bad PR. Let's not talk about that.
But yeah, like I said, FF League Winners, Yards Per. Go check out some content. We just dropped an article for our My Guys. We had 10 guys that dropped little short mini articles about why our guys are our guys. Go check that out. I know a lot of guys put work into that, so go check it out. And
if you know pleasure. Yeah, you already know who mine is, so you had like two options.
I didn't even have to look.
I only got like two or three, so you know.
I knew exactly who it was as soon as I saw that you were participating in it.
It's J.K. Dobbins. Go buy him.
Spoiler alert.
Anyways, you guys can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. And until next week, take care.